About 34 years ago, I graduated Cornell. Like you, I was in the I was in the MBA program my first year, some of you in the second year, and I had a fifth year to go back. But instead, my uncle came up to me and said, "Richard, why don't you leave school and let's start a new business?" And the business was called Guido's Italian Ices. Now, some people ask me, why Guido's Italian Ices? I say because it sounded better than Jaffe's Jewish Ices. Anyway, I decided to leave school, figuring that I'd work for a little bit and then go back for my final year. And we rented a 1,200 square foot garage in Monticello, New York. And the idea was to make Italian ices like sugar water, cups and in tubs. And they were selling it to hotels, bungalow colonies, and schools in the area. And we made lots of money in the summer, but we lost money in the winter. And literally coming out of school, I was working 20-hour days. So you think about working hard. We'd get up at 5, we'd prepare till 7, we'd run production from 7 to 3, we'd clean up, we'd deliver the ices, take sales, get back 9, 10 o'clock at night, then prepare the batches for the next day. Now, I could tell you a couple nights we went home at 1 o'clock, went out to the hotels in the area and went right to work, but those are the old days. But, you know, we worked really hard, and we did that for very many years. About 3 years later, in 1978, and we started the business by borrowing $50,000 from my father. So we're having a discussion at the table tonight, you know, how do you get started? I was very, very lucky to be able to borrow money from my mother, who's here with us. Hi, Mom. My mother and father. But after about 3 years, we had lost just about all of it. I needed a bookkeeper, and I needed a salesman, and I couldn't afford to pay them. And the only two people in the whole world I thought loved me enough to do that was my mother and father. So they came, and they moved up to Monticello, New York. Eventually, I had 3 aunts and uncles, my brother, a sister, 3 cousins. It was a real mishigas. But we worked really hard, but we continued to run out of money. In 1979, we took in a partner who gave us some money, who was also supposed to sell into the retail chain. That became probably the biggest challenge of the business. But then in 1980, just when we thought we had the business going, we were doing $1 million a year selling to schools. The USDA came out and they banned junk foods. Junk food is potato chips, Coca-Cola, Italian ices. So we had a choice to either go out of business, but instead I said to myself and my family, I said, look, those kids are going to eat something. If we can find out what they're going to eat, then we can find a bonanza. And I always believe that change is good. It's opportunity. So we went out to our customers in North Carolina, and they came back and said, you know, if you actually give us 2 ounces of juice, not only would we buy it from you, but we'd serve it on the school lunch menu as a fruit or a vegetable. And by the way, we have to buy it for 10 cents. So we went back and said, okay, what does it cost us? Well, Italian ice in a cup and a lid costs 5 cents. So I'm not going to, 4 cents. So I'm not going to sell something for 5 cents and make it 4 cents. So we ended up working very hard, and we ended up coming up with a package. It's a 4-sided Tetra Pak. You tear the top off and you squeeze it up. Okay, this was only a penny. Now the problem is they'd never put anything frozen into it. But I figured we fix that better than we could fix the price. So anyway, we went to work on the formula. We tried every juice possible: guava, passion fruit. Anyway, ultimately what we did is we took sugar out and put apple juice in, apple concentrate, and then we flavored it, and it was delicious. And we started selling it. We started selling it to the schools. So we built up a real business. And then one day I get a call from some parents in North Carolina saying, hey, my kids are buying this in school. Where can I get this? So I said, took their name. I said, let me call you back. So I checked all the retail stores in the area, and I found a food chain called Food Lion. Very big food chain. So I called up the buyer. First buyer said, forget it, we don't need it. So next day I called up, I got a different buyer. He said, forget it. The following week I called up, asked for a different buyer, and finally after talking long enough, he said, look, if you put it in, we'll try and sell it. So we put a retail package together. We'd start shipping into Food Lion. We set up a food broker network throughout the country, and we started selling. The business really started taking off. We put it into the supermarkets, and then what happened is, as luck would have it, in 1982, Dole came out with their fruit bar on a stick. And they started doing all this advertising, bring all these people to the frozen novelty category, so people would go buy a Dole juice fruit bar and a Guido's Ice Juicy. We changed the name from Guido's Ices to Guido's Ice Juice, and our business took off. And then in 1983, I went out and bought a factory in California, and business was booming. By 1984, we took the company public. So we went from 1981, we virtually had no money. And 2 or 3 years later, we took the company public. And then what happened in 1985 is all the big guys started coming in. General Foods, General Mills, Coca-Cola. And what was interesting is when we went public, I reached out to one of my best friends growing up. His father was a consultant in the food business for Coca-Cola. And I invited him on our board of directors. So when Coca-Cola tried to get in the business, they opened up our 10K and looked at the board of directors, said, Jaffe, 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 and Epstein. And he said, is that our Epstein? They called him. They contacted us. We said, no, no, no. But what happened by the middle of 1985, with all the big guys coming in, we realized that though we could make money in the summer, if we did not sell the company that fall, we would not have enough money to get through the winter. So here we are, a public company. We see it coming, and another time I'll tell you the challenges, but we ultimately did close the business, and December of '85 we sold it to Coca-Cola. So there were lots of up and downs. At the table today, they asked me to say the low point of the business. And I would tell you the low point of the business for me was 1981. I had told you we took in a partner who came in 1979. We ran through his money by 1981. I get a call one day, and he says to me, he says, listen, Richard, he says, we're going to shut down your company next week, and then 30 days from now, we're going to reopen it up. And if you want to come work for me, okay, you're welcome, but your father is not. So I literally hung up the phone. I can't tell you what went through my mind. The problem I had is that when we had set it up, we would receive all the checks from the customers, but I would send all of the checks down to their office to co-sign to send it out. So I couldn't send any checks out. So I had to figure some way around this. So I went to my bank in Monticello, and I said, hey, can I use the payroll account? Because I had a payroll account, I'm writing checks. And they said, no, your payroll account is strictly for payroll. That's the charter. But if you had a petty cash account, I could put it in there. They said, thank you. Never mind. I walked out. I had remembered we had opened up a petty cash account before the partner came in a different bank. It had a $500 limit. But I started taking checks coming in, putting it into the other petty cash account. I started paying $2,000 bills with $400 or $500 checks. I started paying out of that account, and we started turning the business around. So fortunately, it happened at the same time as business was picking up, but as a way of, instead of shutting down or being shut down, we were able to turn it around and eventually buy him out. So it's just a rocky road, a happy ending, but I have to tell you, it's a very, very thin line between success and failure. And part of it has to do with persistence. So that was 1985. We sold it to Coca-Cola. I moved to Houston, ran the business for 2 years. The company grew enormously. And then in 1987, I got a call from Mr. Roberto Gozueta, who was the chairman of Coca-Cola Atlanta, telling me he's sending his airplane to see me. I knew that was not a good sign. Anyway, I got to his office, and the bottom line, he said, they're having a problem running the Minute Maid division I reported to. He wanted me to stop growing the business. We had developed a NutraSweet, no-calorie juice bar. We had developed a Coca-Cola, with the hot rocks where you get bubbles in your mouth, a kind of ices. But he said, look, Richard, I can't invest in your company. You have to maintain it for 2 years. I don't want you to grow it. And I said, sir, if I can't grow it, I can't breathe. I have no choice. We shook hands and came home to my wife and said, where in the world do you want to live? And she said, San Diego, and off we went. So that was, she actually said Del Mar. And I said, how about San Diego? She said, no, Del Mar. So we ended up moving to Del Mar. So that was actually a happy ending.